Hello to all and welcome back into this Swamp Thing Saturdays episode 6, The Price You Pay. Now just a real quick warning for those new to the channel, we will deal heavily in the territory of spoilers, so be mindful of that. So, we have another crew who tries to come after the Swamp Thing, per orders of Avery Sunderland and Dr. Woodrue. And I understand he needs samples to further his research, but why just send 2 people? Especially when the possession of those samples are supposed to be so revolutionary or groundbreaking.
I'm sorry. That lost hand nearly killed me.
But anyway, I think we'll take this opportunity to highlight the role that Derek Mears has managed to fill as playing the Swamp Thing in this season. Now, the 1984's iteration of the Swamp Thing was played by Dick Durock. And while for that time that was a pretty decent iteration of the character, this version of the Swamp Thing is played to an audience that has been swarmed by social media, cell phones, and any other type of distraction one can mention. And he does a fantastic job of keeping the audience's attention. So, at the hospital, we find Abby and Liz visiting Daniel after the incident that happened at Delroy's that resulted in his coma. But while in the coma, we get a flashback with the Phantom Stranger now. This is just another one of those things that makes this show a little bit different from most others, in the sense that while it may seem to be a bit macabre at times, even though it is pulling from the comic book source material, it's doing it in such a way that kind of brings a mystique about the characters, no matter how weird or quirky sometimes they may appear. But yes, it is here in this coma sequence is where we're given the origin story of how Daniel becomes the Blue Devil in movies that will serve as an explanation of what happens with his character later on in the show. And it's also something that Madame Xanadu knows is coming in the wind. Now, in the beginning of the show, we see the Swamp Thing reminiscing about Abby, and after learning what he learned from the Phantom Stranger in the last episode, I believe her arrival in this episode was the catalyst for what happens in the next one. And I say this because when Abby arrives to talk to him about what happened, he refers to himself in the third person as a monster, even though Abby knows that's not the case. And speaking of monsters, did you catch the way that Avery was dealing with Abby in the hospital? Yes, I like the fact that Avery Sunderland is a difficult and complex character, to say the least, because while he may carry on like he does in Marais, once you get a little bit of his backstory in the next coming episodes, even though he is crafty, a predator, and many other colorful things that you could say about him, don't get me wrong, for all intents and purposes, he's also a tragic character if you really think about it. And speaking of tragedies or drama, tell me if I'm wrong, but if you had never seen this show from the beginning episode and you just happen to tune in on this one episode with these two, you would swear there was some kind of star-crossed lovers or something. I mean, the melodrama between these two characters. Oh my God.
You're tearing me apart!
What?
You say one thing, he says another, and everybody changes back again!
Now, the reason for their argument is the fact that Matt was involved with Alec Holland's disappearance, that Avery had put him up to do it, and the reason why he did it was to keep under wraps all the things that Lucila had been doing all these years because of Avery's influence. And the fact that Lucila just had to take someone out a few days ago, along with the fact that Matt doesn't quite know exactly who Avery is in the grand scheme of things.
You are the father!
Bye. Gives her just a little bit more material to project onto Matt. Now, later on in the show, we see the results of Dr. Woodrue from his tampering with the saline bag, which is used in the hospital for Daniel, giving him an adverse reaction to it. But before Woodrue goes to Avery to tell him what happened, a very telling interaction happens between Dr. Woodrue and his wife. As much as he might be doing this all for her, she's having second thoughts about staying in Marais. And by this point in the episode, given the interactions that we've seen so far, it becomes apparent where the title of this episode comes from. So when it comes to Dr. Woodrue's wife's feelings about leaving, they're almost confirmed to be right due to the fact that Daniel shows up to their house frantic, and rightfully so because he doesn't know exactly what's going on. And it's a good thing she's a doctor. Even though she is suffering from Alzheimer's, she still managed to put Daniel down with a needle. Now, in the process of Matt investigating the call that came through while he and Lucila were having their disagreement, he runs across Abby and, of course, Alec Holland, aka the Swamp Thing. And in turn, later on in the episode, more than likely reveals it to Lucila. But at the very end of the episode is where we get the lead into the next one, which was actually my personal favorite out of the entire series. But that just about does it for this review. Stay tuned into Content Meta for more reviews just like this one. No matter what day you choose to watch this video, thanks anyway for tuning in to Swamp Thing Saturdays. Don't forget our reviews for the Black Lightning series is in full swing. Check that out by clicking the link at the end of this video. And we have been working on a WandaVision video for the past 2 weeks, but just bear with us. Thank you so much for watching, and until then, see you then.